Hey, I'm Brett.
Hi, I'm Molly. Welcome to our podcast.
Let's be curious together. On today's podcast, we're going to be asking the question, what we wish we knew before we got married. Molly and I are coming up on 10 years married. It's been a great time, a lot of ups and downs, though, through all that. And there's been, I think a lot of lessons learned along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things that now we can look back and say, man, I wish I knew that beforehand. I'm sure at year 20, 30, 40, 50, we'll have even more things that we'd add to that list. But, our humble opinion from 10 years in, here's things we wish we knew before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you like to go first, or shall I?
You can. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Oh,
What did you wish you know before you got married?
Yeah.
At 22.
23, come on.
No.
You're not going to give me
22?
that 2 days.
No.
Wow.
22. I have to have some bragging points.
Okay, fine. What I wish I knew before we got married, I'll say this and then I want to break it down, is like the difference between agreement and understanding. I really didn't know the difference in having those as goals in relationship and in conversation. I grew up in a home that was very much like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And which I think is at its core is a great principle.
Yes.
And
it cuts down the complaining. It sets the mind on positive things. Yeah.
Right. I think at its core, it's an idea of like, let's not put people down and belittle them and tease them or, things like that, which is great. Absolutely great. But it can also go too far extreme, which is like, if you don't agree on something, then don't say anything. And so I remember many times in our first years of marriage where you would bring up something, or we would be at odds with something, and like it would just start off as casual conversation, and all of a sudden when I noticed that you're not in agreement on this, I wouldn't say anything. Like I'm like,
you wouldn't push into it.
I wouldn't push, or I'd hold my tongue, I'd bite my tongue, because I'm like, if you don't have anything to say, don't say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I had this internal guiding, direction, let's say, or like compass, this tool that was, guiding me. I didn't realize that was there, that's why I was acting that way. It was so deep, like so ingrained that it was just how I was, right? I had no idea that's what that rooted back to. And so I'm like, we're going through, and then it really started to catch up to me is when we would have conflict, right? When we'd have disagreements or conflict, especially on something that I really felt passionately about. And sometimes I would voice it, but there were a lot of times where I was like biting my tongue because that's what I thought you had to do, right? It's like, if you don't have something else to say, don't say it. Or especially if you were like presenting something, if you presented an idea, I didn't know how. It was either respond with, I love it, that's exactly what I would do, or nothing. Right. And like, I didn't understand that there's another option, another alternative. And so at the core of it, really my MO, my modus operandi was like, I was pursuing agreement in our relationship.
Yes.
Right.
You desired agreement and you pursued
and I thought that was the goal.
Okay.
I thought the goal of a healthy relationship was agreement. And that was just such a like terrible starting point to any relationship, is to like think. And it was, at first it was really easy though. At first it didn't hit me so hard because we met, there was so much that we had in common.
You're right.
There were so many things that we agreed on.
We did. Yeah.
Right? There's so many things that we like, oh, you think, oh, me too. Oh, yeah, you love that and I love that. You know what I mean? Like, oh.
Yep.
And like, in things of like morality, like we've said in other episodes, like in things of morality and beliefs and whatever, it's like we were not at odds, right? So there was so much that was in agreement that it was like, okay, and we moved so quickly. So then all of a sudden, that was never challenged, right? Of agreement being the goal, because we were in agreement on so many things
in the beginning,
right? And then obviously the longer you're together, the longer the relationship
past the honeymoon
passes,
phase,
the more life happens, the more opportunities for conflict or I won't even say conflict, the more opportunities for compromise. The more opportunities for compromise, come up where you have something, and we're like at an impasse, and it's like when agreement's the goal, it's just a nasty moment to be in the middle of a compromise situation, because it's like we're losing, someone's losing, someone's gonna win and someone's gonna lose.
So can I interject really quick?
Yeah.
So what that does to me, or what that used to do to me, is I would feel quite abandoned by you, because you would retreat. I think we're a classic advanced retreat style of conflict resolution. Would that be what it was? You would classify it as?
Yeah, it was almost like conflict avoidance, right? Where the person getting attacked is retreating.
Yes. Yeah. So I would be an aggressor and you would be a retreater.
Or vice versa.
Sometimes, but because you wouldn't engage with me on a certain level because you were seeking agreement, I felt abandoned, actually. And we've talked in other episodes about my fear of abandonment. But I think it played into that. So it would affect me. It would make me ask, why can't this conversation go past a certain point? Why can't we go farther into it? I personally did not want to fight. I did not want to be a fighting couple. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't push past a certain point either. Mm-hmm. So wasn't just you.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for abandoning you.
Are we just not talking about this?
I'm sorry for abandoning you, honey. I love you.
Literally just not talking about this.
No, we've talked about this before.
But thank you. Thank you.
So there was like this, obviously this paradigm that was broken. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like 5 years in before, I think it was Kylo was maybe the first time that was like a
moment of silence for Kylo.
Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk. If
moment
you haven't been through this.
How many times did we go through it?
A lot.
I say, was it 4?
And then we start teaching it. So then it's even more. I don't even know how many it's been total.
We've been through it a whole bunch.
A ton.
It nailed us both.
The book,
to the wall.
Video curriculums, like everything. Highly recommend that.
What's the tagline for Kylo?
I don't remember the tagline.
Maybe there isn't a tagline.
Quick, create one.
You're in marketing. You can create one.
Anyway, I mean, it brought this realization to me all of a sudden, this aha moment that I had this paradigm, like, and I all of a sudden I'm like flipping back to, my childhood and realizing this was the message that I had been believing all these years of, if you have something else to say, don't say it. And I was interpreting that as, agreement is the goal in a conversation. And so agreement versus understanding. Agreement obviously is we're on this, we're both agreeing that this is the direction we're going to go, or this is the thing we need to do, or, how you think about something is the way I'm going to think about something, or vice versa, right? It's like, has to be the same. And I love the way Bob and Audrey put this when they're like, when agreement is that goal, then really we're trying to turn the other person into us, right? We're trying to say, you need to be more like me.
Yes.
You need to become me, in order for this relationship to work. And that's how, like, when you say it that way, it's so ridiculous, right? Like, I wish someone had phrased it that way years before for us. I'm like, well, that's stupid.
That is how it affected me, though. So I may have felt abandoned by the lack of, like, pushing forward in conversations, but I also did feel like you just wanted to hear something out of me, or felt that there was this language of we need to say the same thing in order to be at peace.
Right.
And I kind of flare up when I will not be controlled.
Not be labeled, not be controlled.
Yeah,
not be
yeah.
told who you are.
Put in a box, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. I kind of flare up at those insinuations into my life. By anybody, not just you, just anybody. There are several people in our life right now that we're very close to that have that effect, but I've grown a lot in it. But when we were first married, I definitely felt, I mean, this is a heavy statement, but I felt like you were trying to control me. But honestly, it was just an effort to agree. And then I hadn't learned that it's really up to me to not be controlled by anyone. I honestly was kind of primed for being victim in that sense back then. So anyway.
Right. No, but I mean, you're right at the essence of, if agreement is the goal, someone is trying to control. I mean, that is, I didn't think that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. It's not like I was consciously trying to manipulate and control. Like that
wasn't your heart.
It wasn't like this underhanded direction I'm coming to the relationship with.
You're not a true narcissist.
I'm not a true narcissist. I'm an ADHD narcissist. I just had no idea that I was doing what I was doing. So,
That's right.
something like that.
That's not where the heart lies.
Anyway.
Can you give like a situation though of like seeking agreement versus understanding?
Well, I just want to like parallel what the two are real quick, and then I think we can get into that. So agreement was, again, it's very much just like, you need to become like me, or we need to be on the exact same page, which is, again, you need to be like me, and this we're gonna be the same in this, if otherwise it's not gonna work. And I just see that so reflective in our society at large as well right now. Like, that is so many people, we're having conflict because agreement is the thing. It's either you agree with what I believe and what I do and what I say,
or we can't even have a conversation, or we can't even talk to each other.
I can't even be friends with you.
Can't even be friends.
Right.
Can't be at the same church.
Right.
Can't be
the moment one
affiliated
thing comes up that we don't agree on, it's like, oh, hold on, time out.
We can't be friendly neighbors.
Yeah.
Literally, we have this neighbor.
I think people have gotten away though with making agreement the goal because of the internet.
Yeah.
Because like, you think of before we really had the internet, even just back in like the 90s, as kids, and we're running around and stuff, and it's like you had a neighborhood or a community most of the time, and then that's the people, that's all you had in your school, and it was like, this is the community, and you're not going to get along with everyone, and everyone's not going to have the same belief system as you, and you have to figure out how to put up with that. And that's seeking understanding, is like, hey, I'm gonna just realize that we don't have to agree for us to still be friends. You can think something totally different than me, and that's okay.
There was a peace that people had with differences.
Yeah. And to
is normal.
Exactly. And that's like going back to what you started with there, what you were touching on, which is, I am in full control of me. There's a level of self-confidence that it takes, right? And understanding no one controls me. I'm in full control of me, right? Here's my beliefs. Take it or leave it. And I'm not going to feel vulnerable, or I'm not going to feel scared if you don't agree with them.
Right.
This is just me.
My world is not going to crumble.
Right. Because it's not relying on you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which is even like deeper conversation going to like on faith, right? And like obviously having a grounding relationship with God gives you that confidence, the stability to say, look, he's my foundation. I don't need anything else. If here's what I believe, here's what I think on the matter, take it or leave it.
And no matter how you treat me, it's not going to shake what I know to be true. Or no matter what you do, it's not going to shake what I know to be true.
And I don't need to change your mind.
Yes.
I don't need to try and convince you that what I'm thinking is right, because it would make a lot of people do that. I find, like, they try and convince other people that what their idea is right in order to convince themselves.
Yes, they're really talking to themselves,
right? Like they're saying, no, you need to believe this, because by getting more people on board with them, they feel more justified in their conviction of the thing.
But that's what you're talking about, is this like self-justification through agreement.
That's a better way of saying it. Self-justification, for sure. The epitome, in my opinion, this is going to sound hilarious, like pop culture reference here. The epitome of self-confidence, right, in and an understanding versus agreement is that guy from The Mandalorian, and he makes the statements and he goes, "I have spoken."
That's self-confidence to you.
Yeah, there is zero seeking anyone else's approval of what his decisions were and what his thoughts are, right? He's just like, here's my decision, or here's my thought, here's what I'm going to do, and then he says, I have spoken. Like, that's it. It's over. Like, I don't need you to jump on board with me. I don't need to convince you that this is the best idea. Yeah. He's just like, I've made a decision. Here it is. I'm letting you know. But this is what it is. Yeah. And I don't need to rally people behind me, towards my idea. And I mean, let's talk about that even. I don't think we did this so bad in a relationship, but a lot of people I know I would see do this is when agreement was the goal and the spouse is in disagreement, it's let me rally friends who agree with me, who also share the same idea, so I can convince you that you are not right. Like,
we have never done that.
I know.
I'm grateful.
Not in a serious way, at least. I think we've done it jokingly.
Oh, you've done it?
We've all done it. We've both done it.
Oh, you've rallied friends?
In joking situations.
All right, we're getting real.
In joking situations, we've definitely both done it.
You mean you have bullied me when we have friends over? Oh, my goodness. No, I'm grateful we haven't done that. No, but that is real and true. I know a lot of women do.
A lighthearted way would say, like, okay, let's say I love a certain movie, and you don't. And so I'll tell 3 friends that I know love that same movie. Yeah. And then they all go, I can't believe you don't like that movie.
I get the point. Yeah.
Right. It's just like, we actually do it so much more often, I think, than people think. And it's like, it's a vulnerable, like, fear-based, reaction. Like, it's in the self-justification. Like, I feel, if you really get down to it, it's like this level of, I'm not confident enough in my own belief or, my own likes and who I am and my character, my core, to just be who I am and be confident that I need to get people to agree with me and get them on my side.
Yeah. And so give me an example of what the difference between understanding and agreement might be, like in a real world scenario, a real life scenario.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to make one up. Let's say, like, you were to come and show me an outfit and you were, like, so excited about it and you're wearing it and dancing around in it. And I can tell you're happy, and you decide to say, hey, what do you think about this outfit? Right?
Probably seeking agreement.
Probably seeking agreement. Right. Now, if I like the outfit, that's easy. The possible conflict comes from
if you agree, that's easy.
If I agree, it's easy.
Because obviously I agree, because I'm dancing around in it.
If I don't agree, then that's a problem, right? It could be a problem. So if agreement's my goal, right? Then it's me doing some sort of a conversation like, well, or lying to you, right? And neither one of those are really an ideal outcome. If my goal, though, is seeking understanding in this conversation, and you dance around your outfit, and I say, hey, tell me what you love about that.
How does that make you feel?
And you get to tell me how it's special to you, and how does that make you feel because you look so happy. I can see how happy you are in that outfit. Wow. And then I can say something that I do genuinely love, which is, I love the way that makes you feel.
I can tell that makes you feel good. That would be understanding.
Instead of me on agreement, like, well, I don't really like yellow. Instead, I can say, I
like your striped outfit better.
Right.
Your black and white striped outfit.
Look, are there moments for brutal honesty sometimes with each other? Absolutely. Where we might be oblivious to things and we have to call it out and be like, hey, I don't think you realize that your pants are ripped, right? Or, like, you have to say it sometimes.
Sure.
there's times we have to protect one because we're protecting one another, and that's where the goal isn't like shielding and protecting the other person. But when it's just about the agreement thing, like preference, no. And I was glad that we did that pretty early on in our marriage of setting that goal. I don't know if we said it as a goal, but we communicated it.
I got in your face, and I think I said, "You better not lie to me." Like I didn't want you to lie to me. I didn't want there to be this pretending. I wanted to know that you really loved me. I wanted to know that what you were representing to me was true and real.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to gloss over hard things. I just wanted you to tell me the truth from the very beginning. I was very hungry for truth. I'd seen a lot of different representations of marriage, and I'm the type of person that naturally like will see a situation that I don't resonate with, and I'll study it so that I don't do the same thing. That's kind of how my mind works, and I have to really watch myself with that, but it is how my mind works. So I had seen enough where I had just set a goal for myself of having a marriage where the wife didn't peer pressure her husband or manipulate her husband to not share the hard truth with her. So,
and I appreciate that about you.
Thanks.
And then likewise, I also came from a direction in our marriage of saying, I want that when I do speak the truth, which should always be always, but when I have to have the hard conversation, or
that
when
I have spoken,
or when I praise you, that you believe that that's genuine because I haven't lied to you and given you a bunch of white lies all along the way, right? So I haven't just said everything is perfect all the time, and then when something really is, you don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I really wanted to still honor and be truthful, and this is probably where some of the neurodivergence and black and white was, you know, I can't do gray, you know. So when agreement was the goal, it was so hard because I'm like, I don't want to lie, but I don't, you know, want to say something mean because I'm not supposed to say, right? And I'm like, what do I say? You know, like I don't know how to. I don't know.
I can see how that'd be really difficult
how
for you.
to respond because she wants me to agree with her, but I don't. So what do I say? I don't know what to say.
And you have, I think a lot of people really don't know this about you. The people who know this, but you really do have a really strong moral compass, really strong, and you want to do the right thing. So in terms of these communication styles and working through conflict and stuff like that, I could see how this would have been very difficult for you.
Yeah, it was
because you wanted to do the right thing.
It was. It was really tough. It was really tough. To be honest.
So
it was even tougher because I saw the effect it had on you. I saw the effect that agreement is the goal was having on you, and so it was making it twice as bad because not only was I either biting my tongue or when I was being honest, it wasn't being, you know, again, agreement with the goal. So I'm like hurting you. And so then I see you're being hurt. I'm like, oh, like, I don't know. Am I supposed to just start lying? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. I really craved your empathy.
Right.
We had a lot of conversations about this, and I didn't think you had it in you, to be honest. And I'm sorry for having such little faith in you. There were times when I thought that you were just a robot. Like, I really wanted your empathy, and empathy to me looked like asking clarifying questions about how I felt, pulling it out of me, like seeking to understand me, seeking to understand why, how, what, you know, according to what was in my heart, according to what my emotions were going through about a situation, and seeking to understand a pathway through it, like how I desired to get through it, and coming alongside me. There were many, many conversations and arguments and whatnot and impasses that we reached where I just desperately wanted you to understand where I was coming from. But you've always been a great question asker. You've always been a super intelligent being, but the emotional level only went so far.
Well, the problem, again,
emotional connection level, excuse me.
And then I don't think that's what it really was, though.
No, it wasn't. No.
That's what you were interpreting it
The
as.
emotional connection level, though,
You didn't feel connected to me.
Could have not been reached because of the strategy of
Correct.
understanding versus agreement and other things.
Right.
Yes. You have emotions. That's very clear. And obviously, like, now we're in a very different place.
And the thing was, like, we were both wanting to make the connection. Like, you were wanting the emotional connection with me, and I was wanting to connect with you.
I know.
But we were ships in the night.
Yeah.
Like, we were literally sailing right past each other, trying, but we were just never quite getting it. We were like, it wasn't that you wanted it, and I was like, no, I don't want any of that, or was apathetic towards you. I was like, I'm in. Like, I think I said several times, like, just tell me how to do what you're talking about, because I don't understand. Like, I don't know what empathy looks like in action. And so this idea of this concept of, understanding is the goal, which is very empathetic in nature. Like, this had never been something that I knew of, whether from the neurodivergent side of my brain or my upbringing or whatever, like, just foreign, right? As foreign gets.
Yeah.
Never.
That's understandable.
Didn't know it.
So the tell me more thing.
Yeah.
You saying to me, tell me more.
Yep.
That reached across, I feel like, so many categories of, like, tell me what you want. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me how to do this. Tell me. That was you chasing something with me for so many years. So you were chasing that. Tell me more about it. I don't know what this is. This empathy, this understanding. I don't know what this is. And I was on the flip side of that coin, chasing happiness, like the idea of what was happiness. I didn't know. So you saying, tell me more, and I really didn't know what to tell you. I really didn't know how to lead you into a deeper level of, like, romantic gestures, a deeper level of adventure and excitement and fulfilling dreams. I didn't know what my dreams actually tangibly were. And you grasping at, like, I the only thing I know to say is just, you help me. Like, tell me more, Molly. I want to know. I didn't know how to articulate those things. My thing that I wish I had known more about before we got married is what was happiness to me. And I think a lot of women actually really struggle with this. And before I get into that, I just want to just say we did take premarital counseling before we got married, and we were really good students. No surprise. We were really good students at it, weren't we? We did so good. But actually, you know what we also did was we took from this couple. They were great. They loved us. They loved their job. They loved each other. Yet I feel like we talked about 20% of the time, and they talked about 80% of the time. And we were trying to get our expectations out on the floor before we got married. And we would find ourselves, like, after the sessions with them, like, continuing the conversation and getting into things, and then coming with questions the next time because we didn't, like, come to an understanding about something. We'd come with questions, and it was a little bit of a jumbled mess because I feel like we should have gotten a little more focused on us, but that's fine.
I can see, honestly, right now as we're looking back at that time.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm literally remembering all of the little flags that I am shocked they as counselors didn't pick up on.
Oh, no.
I am literally thinking of them right
what?
now.
Like what?
Okay, so, you had mentioned, I'm in my pursuit of you saying, hey, I want to know, just tell me, right? But I'm paraphrasing, correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically you were saying, I don't know what, like, the practical of what I want or what I need. But what you did know is how you wanted to feel. You didn't know what you specifically wanted. Like, you didn't know what you wanted me to do. You just knew how you wanted to feel.
Correct.
Okay. So what I'm saying is what I just realized was, like, in our premarital, they had us write down our expectations on paper. They had us map out, like, in all sorts of categories. And I remember having way more written down in practicals, right? Like the things we do,
We should look back at our paperwork. We
the
still have
actions
it.
and stuff we take.
Mm-hmm.
And yours was way more about feelings.
You remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yours was way more scarce and
they could have told
practicals.
us. They could have warned us.
I don't remember that. If they did, I don't remember it.
We obviously didn't have the right filter to actually grasp
I
what this
remember
was.
them challenging you and saying, like, what do you want from this? And you're just like, I don't know.
No,
Like,
I do remember this now. Yes, they were challenging me to tell Brett exactly what I wanted
yeah.
in everything.
And you were like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I never had a husband before. I don't know.
But your goals were feelings. And a
My
lot of your
goals were
stuff
feelings.
were how you wanted to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And not there weren't any like practicals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my list made most of the practicals, and we sat there and we talked about it, and you're like, yeah, these are okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then it was like the agreement thing. Oh, great, she's in agreement with me. Everything I wrote down is great. Let's go ahead and do that, you
Right.
know? And then we hit this clash because we're doing everything my way because I wrote the list and we both agreed on it.
Is that an official statement?
But you're not
We were doing
feeling
everything your
happy.
way?
But you're not feeling happy.
Okay. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah. I had grown up in a house full of women. I didn't know men at all.
And I had my mom, but no other women.
Yeah, well, I had my dad, but my dad was actually a super, I would say, on the heavy end of the emotional spectrum for men.
Mm.
He would cry a lot, and he would make decisions based on feelings.
We only cried blood in my house.
Huh?
I said we only cried blood in my house.
That's weird. And I didn't have any. I had brother, but he was like a second father to me. I didn't have any peer men in my house to really relate to, and my brother was out of the house while I was growing up. And I had friends that were boys. I just didn't have a lot of exposure to men, and you didn't have a lot of exposure to women that were like sisters because
No,
you
I
guys moved
didn't.
from Canada, and then you
I didn't
were
really have
new-
anyone that was like a sister.
But
no.
you had some friends that were girls and
I had
stuff like that. But
not not the same level.
But in your home, there was like heavy male testosterone influence. In my home, it was heavy estrogen influence. And I only say that because I think it set me up to see life through feelings. So we would. Your reactions
This
are
is so
funny.
real.
It set like we loved the Jane Austen movies. We loved watching rom-coms and stuff like that. And obviously those are narratives, and I think that I truly, and it's embarrassing to say, but I think I truly was set up to expect something out of that because I didn't have a real world experience. I also did not date.
Fairy tales.
I also did not date, and I didn't have any exposure to like real life boys.
So no, you didn't have some boy come around and crash the fairy tale dream ahead of time for you.
Nobody did.
So I could
Nobody
come and
did that
swoop
for me.
in and be a little bit better.
Nobody. So like going into marriage, I mean, I was 26 when I got married, and I had gone through like college and stuff like that. I had really awesome friends that were guys and stuff like that. But who's really going to talk about these deep topics? Like, nobody really challenged this side of my brain, and it could be because it never came up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But so going into the marriage, I definitely did not have a clear and accurate idea of what happiness for me meant. Your line of work and our line of work, essentially, with our company, we know that feelings are. The way you feel is one of the most difficult things to articulate because you're feeling with the part of your brain that is not logical.
Or the part of your brain that lacks the ability to communicate. The part of your brain that feels can't speak. Has no capacity for language.
Has no capacity for language.
But it makes all the decisions.
But it makes all the decisions. So I had enough feelings for you that I made the decision to marry you and vice versa. But yeah, that pretty much sums up my life. Before I learned this other side of life, this other language, is I would feel things, and I would dream in feelings, and I had vision in feelings. And getting married to you, I think it was a very, very stark difference in a lot of ways, because of our communication style, because of your upbringing, my upbringing being completely different. You're right, we did agree on a lot of things. So it was easy going into marriage knowing that we agreed enough that this was right. And I audibly heard God tell me, you were the man for me.
Which you held on to that for quite a while before you told me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I was praying one night in my little efficiency apartment, and I was like wrestling with this idea of Brett, because I didn't want to fall for him if it wasn't the right one for me. And I was praying, and I literally heard God. I asked God, I said, is Brett my future husband? And I audibly heard God say yes. Now, God say, there's a whole conversation about how God speaks and what an audible answer
He
is.
said yes.
But it was as clear as I've ever heard before.
Wow.
And it wasn't, I know that wasn't an emotional thing. So I know for sure that, we were the right pairing, but going into it, I know happiness was totally tied to emotions and feelings for me, because even on my wedding day, we had made so much preparation. Your mom was awesome helping us plan. You were planning, I was planning. We were getting all the details together. And on my wedding day, it wasn't the feeling that I hoped for. And we all go in with expectations, but sometimes it's really hard to articulate what these expectations are. And for a wedding day, though, you plan your wedding day, right? And so I planned my wedding day, but going in and having my wedding day, somehow the reality of it felt so different than what I hoped it would feel like. And
you had an expectation for a specific feeling.
Yes, I did. And I didn't capture it. And, that's a huge, shock to a lot of people to know, because everybody saw me on my wedding day, and I was happy, and I was smiling, and I had moments with you, like my vows. That was such a real moment.
You did a great job.
Thanks. And, living out the day, it was just different. So I had to reconcile that, and it took me a lot of years actually to get over that. And I was trying to figure out what it was and why it was so different. But going into the first 4 months of our marriage, developing our physical relationship before we got pregnant 4 months after, all of those expectations, I thought it was going to feel differently, being a newlywed and living life together and putting things, in our home, and just building a home together, building our life together. What does that even mean? And how does that even feel? I think Molly back then would have said, I don't know what to expect, or I don't know what it's going to be like.
But it's going to be blissful.
But we always set an expectation, no matter what. I believe that people, even when they're trying not to set expectations, they do. Maybe women, I don't know. But that also was just a weird thing to navigate, because I was not feeling happiness.
And were you expecting me to make you feel happy?
I was expecting a lot out of you. Yes. You were the only addition to my life that I didn't have before. I had lived on my own. I wasn't happy then either, but that's okay.
No, it's not. That's part of it. No, that's the crux right there. That's the very. It goes right back to what we talked about earlier, which is this self justification, right? It's if I am who I am, and I'm confident in me, and I am grounded in the Lord, and I'm happy there, right? Then it doesn't really matter. I can be happy, I can be myself anywhere. I can be confident anywhere. I can be happy anywhere, because I've got this personal grounding. So it's there's this level of, you weren't happy before.
I was looking for external factors to make me happy.
Right.
Yeah, essentially. And so going into marriage and stuff like that, I just did not understand that I was looking for external factors. But I didn't also think I like understood that, hey, if you've got a beautiful home, like that feels good. Or if you're able to like make meals in your kitchen and like be free to like explore
The fleeting thing.
stuff,
Yeah.
the stuff that dissolves, the stuff that does not last. I understood that would be fun. That could be fun. And I definitely thought that you were going to play a huge part in my happiness. So that fleshed out in like, I was really expecting you to do these like big romantic gestures. The first big disappointment between the two of us was the way you proposed to me.
Oh, we're going there, huh? Wow. We don't need the whole story.
We don't need the whole story.
Suffice it to say.
Do you not want me to tell the story?
Suffice it to say, I was way too excited and impatient, and a little bit nervous that Molly had already found out. So
He had built this scenario in his head that I already found out.
And so I skipped all of the formalities, basically. Which was not a great idea. Don't do that.
He put a ring box on the bottom of my birthday gift. He got me a cool sweater and a couple other things. And then at the bottom of
you're going to tell the whole story.
At the bottom of the bag was a ring box. And I was like, really, I wasn't playing dumb. I was really just trying not to like expect anything. So I opened the ring box and there was a note in it that says, "Just kidding." And like that was his way. And I understand, just to correct me if I'm wrong, that was Brett's way of making light of the fact that he truly thought that I knew already.
Well, yes. So I'm going to add this detail then, because you have gone all the way there, is to say, while I had come over when I was away and cleaned my house and cleaned my nightstand and like exactly where I had kept the ring. So I was like, when I came back and everything got organized and the ring box and everything has all been like reshuffled, I'm like, oh shoot, Molly has already seen it. She's already found it. The surprise is gone. She knows what this ring box looks like. So I'm going to get a different ring box and go on.
Yeah, and I wasn't snooping when I was organizing your room and dusting and cleaning and spraying,
which
and
was really
wiping,
nice of you.
I was not snooping.
I had a panic moment.
Yeah, and his mind went to worst case scenario, which is fine. And I'm sorry for putting you in that position, but unknowingly. So it was just kind of a funny setup to fail type of situation. So that was the way he proposed. That was my first big disappointment, because I had friends that had gone through some really...
I followed that with an actual proposal immediately. You didn't finish the rest of that. There was a just kidding note, which was a terrible idea.
The just kidding note.
But I had the ring in my hand.
Yeah. And he was trying to propose then to a woman whose brain had just exploded. And I was upset and angry.
It was a terrible idea.
And yeah, it was just bad. Anyway, I got over that about 8 years later. I finally got over it 2 years ago. Anyway, so back to the happiness conversation. My big struggle through a lot of our marriage has just been expectations and happiness. And then the third one would be, I finally understood that I innately, from when I was very little to now, was a very chronic people pleaser, and I had zero grasp of what actually made me happy. And I was very aware of what made everybody else happy. I was trying to mirror other people's lives, other people's happiness, and when you're trying to construct your life based on a mirror image of 12 other people that you most care about, or say your sisters. For me, my sisters, what they loved, what they cared about, my mom, and then my friends. Like, I was constantly mirroring my life on someone else. So when it came to Brett,
that just gave me another revelation. I'm going to go there in a second.
Okay, just wait a second though.
All right.
When it came to Brett, I was trying to discover what happiness was by mirroring what his happiness was, but he was trying to do the same for me, but not in a people-pleasing way. But he really wanted to help make me happy, help discover a happiness and joy together. but I really did not have the tools to pursue my own happiness and to set myself up for joy. And I think I've just recently started to crack the ground of it. I still definitely struggle with it sometimes, but I think I really got a huge leg up on it when I went through some therapy. After my sister-in-law died of cancer, I went and got had a few sessions with this really cool lady, and she challenged me. I would just talk, and it would be so nice to just air everything out. Lots of different topics, and I was talking about me and Brett, and she stopped me and she said, "Molly, I think you really need to practice being a little girl. And I think you need to tap into your husband in his little boy side. And you as little Molly and Brett as little Brett need to play together." And she really nailed, like, it just keeps coming back. That keeps coming back to me over and over, because Brett and I are very, like, we've lived a great 10 years, but I say it's been the longest 10 years of my life. And I know not many women would say that about their marriage, but it's been so much work. Like, we have just worked really hard. And we've had a lot of very serious years, and we've had 4 children, which is wonderful, but that's been hard. And then you've started your own business. That's been hard. And you worked for a ministry. That was hard. And we haven't chosen feel-good things in life. We've chosen things that are right.
You've had some jobs that were hard.
But I didn't work until recently.
Where you started as well, in the school system, and or before that, when you were holding like 3 or 4 jobs when we first.
That was before, though. But I consider, I mean, yeah, I always took on more. I've just always taken on more. When my oldest daughter was, when my oldest daughter was year and a half, and I was pregnant with my second, I started watching another friend's daughter, because I wanted to practice before I got my second child. It's like all of this, like, proactive type of mentality. Like, we got to prepare, we got to do our best, we high achieve. And
I think you're forgetting, like, all the little jobs you've taken on in the in-between. Like,
what jobs?
Okay, and you were doing the clothing thing.
LuLaRoe.
Yeah.
LuLaRoe with my friend. I never had the business, just for the record.
You were
my
a
friend had the
photographer
business.
and stager, and you had 2 little kids that you're like pulling around at the time.
Yeah, it was just G. Yeah, I dipped into some interests.
There were a lot of different pieces.
I have a lot of different avenues of interest that I pursued.
My little, like, aha moment all of a sudden.
No, I'm not done yet, though.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, we have chosen I think, the hard road. The hard, narrow road. Not the foolish road. Not like living life.
It's not hard because we're being foolish.
Yes. It was hard because we're actually choosing the harder way. Like the way that we think.
The grind, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
We've been on the grind. And so I say that about our 10 years, that it's been the hardest 10 years of my life, because it's been that. We haven't necessarily pursued the pleasurable things of life all the time. Like, we definitely challenge each other. We challenge ourselves. So when it comes to happiness, I think I'm just now starting to discover what that is. And my conversation with my therapist about little Molly, little Brett, started to open up these little opportunities for me to laugh more with you. And for so long, I had confessed that we just have different senses of humor. We have different senses of humor. And which is true. Okay. But I think that I started to look for other ways.
It's just an easy way to write it off.
Yeah.
To say it that way.
And it was frustrating to me. It was very frustrating to me that we had different senses of humor. So I tried to look for other ways to laugh with you, or like be just innocent child, just light. I really tried to start lightening up after I realized that. And that was what, 5 years? No, about 4 years ago, maybe 3.5. I've worked on that a lot since then, to lighten up, specifically with you and our interactions when we go on dates, when we watch anime in our bed at night, when we Listen, we got our
When
shows. We're
when
watching 2 anime
when we're
shows right
watching-
now.
When we're watching reruns of The Office and reruns of Park and Rec
We have
over and
Parks
over
and
and
Parks
over and
and
over and over. And
We
over
haven't
and
done
over
that in a
and
while.
over. I'm
Anyway,
watching it with you.
So
Anyway,
just really trying to lighten up. And I'm gonna close. I'm gonna close with this. I'm gonna close.
close.
Yeah.
Is that Baptist close? Pentecostal close?
I'm gonna close my Bible. My dad would always, when he would close his Bible at the end of his sermons, that sound, and when he zipped up his Bible, it's like I got really excited because whenever that happened, I knew we were gonna eat soon.
It's lunchtime. It's finally lunchtime.
And he would close it with one hand. He would close it, boom, and then he would zip, zip, zip. I'm telling you. And he would like change his tone, change his gait. And he would probably mention that everybody was just ready to go have lunch, but he had one more point. Anyway, I knew that it was lunchtime. Anyway, I'm going to close with this.
6-year-old Molly knew what a gate was.
It's highly observant.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, so I just really tried to lighten up, and I've purposefully slowed down my mind, my brain. And I've really been trying to find these moments with you that reflect childlikeness. And I think that has been my biggest recipe for success in finding happiness. That is where my happiness lies, is the childlike. When I can laugh at stupid stuff, when I can discover, like, just feel the wind on my face. It's so cliche, but like just literally quiet my mind to notice life, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's the first time.
Yeah.
And, you know, having children, slowing down for them, my sweet daughter, sometimes I feel so bad for them because I'm like just going fast, trying to get through stuff, going fast, get through. But like slowing down with them and like smelling their hair, like noticing their highlights, like that has been the only thing that has worked so far, is like trying to be childlike. And that's dipped into my faith as well, but that's another story. But with our marriage, you know, just being simple, being slow, being simple, being light with you has been the happiest that I've ever been. And I think it's been about a year and a half or 2 years where things have really shifted for me in our marriage.
Yeah.
And just last thing is like to mention, when it comes to dates, those romantic gestures that I really used to want to like experience with you, that you would plan the ultimate date, or that you would do this or you would do that, just being open to just discovering the moment with you and not expecting heavy things, but just being childlike in it, just like eyes wide open, hey, whatever happens. That has brought so much more happiness to me. So yay us. So what were you gonna say?
I was gonna
Your
say
aha.
my aha. Well, I had two actually.
Big
but
epiphany. Wow. 2 in one night, babe?
two. The aha. One of the aha moments was there was this, you know, that old like cliche like happy wife, happy life, right? I think that we actually, in the beginning of our marriage, were in agreement on something, which was that it was my responsibility to make you happy. I think we were both on that.
You felt that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, when we were first married, you know, I don't remember, someone was like, if a wife isn't happy, then the husband's doing something wrong. There's an element of truth to that, like of setting the temperature level of the home. But that's not scriptural through and through.
It's really not.
It's really not.
No.
Your happiness can only come from God.
Yeah.
Like, He's the only place that you can truly find that.
It's an overflow.
It's an overflow.
Yeah.
There's no way. I cannot, because that's control, right? I can't, no matter what. I can be the greatest person in the world, right? And I could have all the money and all the time and all the things, right? And I could show up every day, but it's your choice at the end of the day, whether or not you're actually going to be happy and you're going to find joy in it. Like, how many people do we know that have on paper everything in life, you know, and they're never happy? And then people who have by worldly standards, nothing, and they are perfectly content and happy.
So
It's
what are the men that are saying happy wife, happy life? What are they doing?
Well, working.
What are they doing at home? Like, how is their home life?
Well, it's this vicious circle. It's this vicious circle where they're both in agreement on this, like we were, right? The guy thinks it's my responsibility to make her happy, and she thinks it's his responsibility to make me happy. And so, just like you didn't have a clear of, you wanted a feeling, right?
Yeah.
And so you're chasing things for feelings, right? And the guy is like, okay, I need to work and be a better provider and do more so I can give her these things, so then hopefully she'll be happy, because she's telling me she needs these things to be happy, and I just want her to be happy, and it's my responsibility. So I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to do more, show up different, so I can get all these things, materialistic or experience, for her, so then she'll be happy. And it lasts for a moment, and then it fades, and lasts for a moment, and then it fades. And they just keep in this vicious circle together, trying to pursue, it's your job to make me happy, it's my job to make you happy. And just like around and around and around and around and around. It never ends.
Maybe. Maybe. I think women find this feeling of happiness, this feeling of community and relationship, and I see a lot of women that don't find it in their husbands. Like, they find it in their gal relationships, and
right. And obviously, I'm speaking to an unhealthy section. I'm not saying this is everyone.
No.
That does this vicious cycle.
And there's so many different examples. So let's just roll with what you were saying.
But what I'm saying is like speaks to an unhealthy section of the population.
So you were saying that you and I both agreed that it was your responsibility to make me happy.
We were both in agreement on that. We were in perfect agreement on it. And it was like a broken agreement. Like, it was flawed at its core. Yes. But we were in agreement on it.
Yeah.
So we were both pursuing it. But obviously we could never make it work.
No.
Because it just doesn't work.
How are you pursuing it?
By trying to do all the things.
Like what?
Like, every time we would have another moment of conflict, and every time we'd have another moment of this isn't working, right, conversation, to say, okay, well, what do you want? Like, what do I need to do? What more can I add to my my list, that's going to make you happy?
One thing that somebody we know and love very much says about marriage and the marriage dynamic is it will go a lot easier for you if you just tell your husband exactly what you want. So you'll get what you want if you just tell him, say, honey, this is what I want. Here you go. I bought myself a Christmas present. Here. No, I bought a Christmas present for myself, but I want you to give it to me. Here you go. I wrapped it. And then you give it to them. And then he just gives it back to you. And he's, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. This is exactly what I wanted.
I think that's a little
No, it is exactly right. That is exactly the implication that this person sets.
Okay. That person, I know. That's the implication that person sets. But I'm saying there's a real vein of truth to that. And I think that's one step too far.
That's been so hard for me, though.
The vein of truth is to say, I'm going to understand that my spouse is not a mind reader. And that I can't expect something that I've never spoken. Right? I can't expect them to mind read.
And we've come to this understanding.
Right. I can't expect my spouse to mind read me.
We've gotten a lot better at this.
To figure out something that's just this like hidden little dream I've never told anyone.
In other words, I've gotten a lot better at this.
And then be disappointed when they don't make that thing happen.
Yes.
Right. And so this level of, no, like, just be vocal about it. Say it. Express it. You know what I mean? And then stop there. The whole like, oh, then I'm going to go ahead and fulfill my own expectation and then, gift wrap it for you to give back to me. I think that's too far. But to the level of, let me actually express it to you. You can hear it. And then if you choose to do something with it, that's great. You know what I mean? But
I could really go for a Starbucks right now.
When have I heard that before?
Say it into the void. But also, yeah, we've gotten so much better at. I've gotten so much better at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Absolutely.
I believe also though you've gotten so much better at investigating and understanding, seeking understanding of what makes me tick.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, it was so much easier when understanding is the goal and not agreement.
Yes.
It's so much easier to deep dive into someone else, into their perspectives, their beliefs, their life, everything, when understanding is the goal and not agreement. Is night and day. Because in agreement, it's like I'm looking, anytime something comes up as contrast, it's like there's a halt, like the brakes screech and you can't go any further.
Yeah.
And the brain's trying to rationalize.
Yeah.
Or come up with a counter argument or how to convince this person or whatever when it's agreement. But when it's understanding, you can just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like, I don't know,
So
agreement's like digging and hitting a rock.
Yeah. So can I just say that's what I felt for the first 7 years of our marriage, was that I was digging into you, but meeting the same thing. This robotic, lack of empathy type of like hard place.
And for me, it was like we would get into a conversation or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. And I'm digging. And then all of a sudden, when we hit something that it was an agreement on, it was like I'm hitting a rock. And I'm like, I don't know how to get past this.
Right. Yeah. And once we started actually being open to conversation through disagreement, once we started actually enjoying our disagreements and laughing more about them, or deciding, hey, this isn't going to give us grounds for divorce, or we're not afraid of doing this. Because when you hit rocks, you think it's the disagreement that it feels painful. You think it's really the disagreements that no, it's actually the pursuit of agreement that feels painful. The disagreements, when we can actually confront them, are fun. And it's variety. It's like,
it's not the fact that we disagree that's painful, is what you're saying. It's the fact that I'm trying to control you to agree with me that's painful. That's what you're saying, right?
That's the painful part.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Often people think that it's disagreement that is painful.
Right.
But it's actually the pursuit of agreement that's painful.
Control.
Yes, control. So I feel like you are the most interesting person that I have ever met. No, I'm serious. And I feel like, I tell people all the time, I feel like I married an encyclopedia. And if I...
You just can't remember what's on the other pages.
No, if I ever get curious about something and I'm too lazy to look it up or whatnot, I just ask Brett to speak on something. I'll say, what do you know about fir trees? Or something like that. Or, it literally, he'll be like,
Well, long pine or short?
Well, I know, I feel that way about you, that you are a very interesting person. And I think once we reached this emotionally vulnerable connection point, things got so enjoyable to like
so much easier.
Pursue you and pursue the mystery of your emotions is one of the most fascinating things that I absolutely love talking about, and I like asking you about.
I love deep diving into you too. There's so much more.
Do you like it when I deep dive into you?
Yes, it's so nice.
It is?
And I think, like, really at the core of it, this was another, like, aha moment in our relationship, was to say, realizing how much we just desire to be understood. Like, it's not agreement, it's understand. Like, when you are finally understood, when you like have the time and the space with your spouse, just like to say it all, to like to exhaust a topic, or
And the
or,
other one's just
or a
asking questions,
conversation,
pulling out, asking
pulling
questions,
it out
asking
until you
questions.
hit the bottom of the barrel, right?
Yes.
And it's like to feel understood, to feel like fully understood, fully known is like the greatest. And that's really what we're seeking in conversations. It's not agreement. Like we think it's agreement. Agreement was the like the trick, like the cheap substitute. It was like really understanding was, wow, that's so nice. Like it feels so good.
The other day we had the petty argument. It was like super late, and I just do really badly late at night or whatever. And we were just having conversations and getting super defensive, both of us. And
what, us? No,
we didn't have to sleep on it in order to like work through it. We actually worked through it that night. And I finally just said, I think both of us really hate being misunderstood, because it's like we were over saying what we were meaning to, like what our intentions were, over explaining our perspectives and stuff like that, and
we're
getting
both
defensive.
in a sleep deprived state with a young baby and
who's 7 weeks
and late nights, and it's
by
like
the way. Right. So we get some room for that, right?
I'm just saying, like, cutting slack.
But it hit me. I said we both hate feeling misunderstood.
Yes.
And that just lifted everything. And you said, yeah. And so we apologized to each other that minute and just moved on. But that's the thing, is you and I do share that as well. We really love being understood and not misunderstood. And maybe it's tied to neurodivergence. It's probably just tied to human beingism. But feeling understood is a huge gift. And I think that's something that you and I have tapped into in our later years of marriage that we really, really appreciate from each other. And so it's shown up, like when we go on dates, we spend time talking, and we've never prioritized phones or any other thing during our dates. We've always
prioritized. No, we've prioritized not having phones.
I know we've never. We put them away.
Right.
Yeah, we put them away, and we've always prioritized conversation, but conversation has shifted and deepened over the years. But even like during the day, I'll come plop on your chair in your office, and if you have time, I'll talk to you about something. And I just really appreciate how we have tapped into something where we both are really interested in each other, but we're working through conversation in a much more beautiful and seamless way. I've always asked the question, from like when I see older folks who have been married for 50, 60, 70 years, how do they stay interested in each other? And people express that they evolve, they change. And so the pursuit of understanding through change is an exciting life with someone who is your closest companion. And I feel like I'm seeing that now. Before I didn't see it. But I can see how, like, we went through some tough years, some dry years. But I feel like we've really tapped into, like, the joy of each other.
Yeah.
And connection.
We love the deep dive, and we've been doing it a lot. How are we gonna ever figure it all out, and there's not gonna be anything else to explore? And it's like, no, because I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago, and 10 years from now I'm not going to be the same person, right? Very, very few people on this planet, I'm sure, stay exactly the same indefinitely, right? Like, that's probably a very boring person, but it's like very few people are going to indefinitely stay the same. We're always changing. It's like, I'm never worried that I'm going to reach the end, you know what I mean? And there's not going to be anything else to know or learn about you, because you keep changing and growing and, becoming a different version of you, right? And a better version of you. And it's like, I get to learn more every time. So, I don't know.
I'm deeply grateful for how I've changed in the past 10 years.
Me too.
I'm really glad that I have changed. And I'm really glad that I see my change and I see the results of growth in general. And it's almost, it's almost like I don't want to look back at what I used to be,
Mm-hmm.
But there's obviously love and grace to cover all of that. But I'm so happy with the good change that has happened, and I'm excited for growing older.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for
Mm-hmm.
the wisdom of the years ahead
Yeah.
that we're going to capture.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, we'll be continuing to step into that identity and person that He desires us to be. But I do see growth, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You're brilliant. So, to summarize, what do you wish you knew before you got married? Short version.
I'm getting all these images, but it's really hard to put into words. That might have to be to be continued, because I don't know if I could put it into words, because it's a feeling.
The part of the brain that feels doesn't speak.
Yeah, I think that's my summary. It's a feeling. Happiness is a feeling. Ugh, that's so gross.
Where do you find it?
You're not going to get an answer out of me. I'm sorry. It's not, everything I say, I'm like vomiting in my mouth, because it's like what people put on coffee mugs and crap. It's not.
Happiness is everywhere. You just have to look.
Happiness is. That's been happening to me a lot. Babe, that's been happening to me a lot.
All the cliches.
I feel like I'm making these major life discoveries, and it turns out they're the cliches that everybody is talking about. Oh, I'm just a cliche.
Oh,
But it's actually real.
the bane of a hipster's existence.
I'm not a hipster, please. So, what did you wish?
You're basically a hipster.
What do you wish?
I don't like labels and bubbles and boxes, and you can't
and people.
you can't fit me
I don't
into
like
any category.
What do you
I'm
wish
original.
you had known before you got married?
So, in retrospect, now this conversation, it would be twofold. One is, understanding, right? Having the knowledge of understanding is the goal of conversation. But then, like, the core of that is in knowing the self-confidence, in who I am, and that what I say, stand for, believe, whatever is enough. I don't need anyone to agree with me to validate what I believe, what I think, or whatever, so that, and I mean, who knows themselves at 22 really yet?
I know.
But that level of, right, getting to where you know yourself, and you spend enough time with the Lord to know who he says you are, right? And all that, as much as possible, right, beforehand would have been great. But for sure, the goal of understanding versus agreement could have fast-tracked us, I think, in quite a few ways. I wish I knew that before.
I think that we've talked to some single people lately
We talk to single people all the time.
who are looking for someone.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about lists of what people are looking for in their future spouse, these things are on the lists. Like, for a woman to be aware of what makes her happy, to be capable of, like, to already be fulfilled in life. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Without a man. And then for a man to be self-confident, like, those things are on a list.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, everybody can make their decision about when they do get married and what things meet their criteria. I do believe that's choice,
That's another cliche right there, coming true. The philosophical thing you're talking about. It's like, oh, it's two broken halves coming together to make a whole. It's not. You really need to be a whole person.
Well,
between you and God.
I'm actually saying that you can stink and do your best, and you can create your lists, and you can try to grow so much as a person, but there are some things that only marriage can actually take you into.
For sure. Yeah.
And there are
Yeah,
some
yeah.
things that only having children can take you into.
Yes, absolutely.
And everybody's so different in their journey of refinement. So there's grace for that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm 100% on board with
So
you
when we
on
ask, what we wish we had known before we got married,
Mm-hmm.
it's all retrospect, but it all worked together. And I realized that I couldn't have known this
Mm-hmm.
without you and my children, and then being out of my family, like
Mm-hmm.
not living life with my family, as you know,
Yep. Yep.
forming a new life
Right.
with you and my children, and being a part of our church, being a part of your family, being part of, like, having all these influences just rubbing on me, like all these years. That's what brought me here.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
No,
Just
I'm
saying.
with you 100%. I think we've just about answered that question.
just a boat.
Just a boot.
Just a boot.
Just a boot.
Okay, well, let's
right.
say goodbye.
Thanks for joining us tonight on the podcast. And we've just been enjoying these conversations. If you guys have any additional thoughts, we'd love to hear them. We'd also love to hear from you, especially those who are married. What's something that you wished you had known before you got married? Share it with us in the comment. We'd love to hear it.